Many scientists believe that there are higher dimensions, parallel universes, and even invisible worlds surrounding our own. There are many cases of vanishings, teleportation, and even time slips. One such case happened in 1935 when an air marshal, Sir Victor Goddard, was flying from England to Scotland. And while he was flying, he wanted to fly over an airfield that he used to know, but is now abandoned. And since this was close to his destination, he wanted to go check it out. So I'm guessing that he must have had some fond memories there. And while he was flying over it, he saw that the old hangars were falling apart. The foliage was overgrown, and the airport was now a farm filled with cattle. Now, after his little side mission, he decided it was time to fly to his destination in Scotland. Then after a couple of days in Scotland, it was time for him to fly back home to England. And during his flight, he saw a storm approaching. There was no way to escape the storm, so he had to fly through it. And while he was flying, his equipment just started to go haywire. He had a very hard time flying the plane. He didn't think he was going to make it. Then he saw that he was now surrounded by strange-looking yellow clouds. He also felt that he was falling for a very long time, but he never crashed. Then finally, these bizarre yellow clouds disappeared, and when he looked down, he saw the abandoned airfield. But this time, this airfield wasn't abandoned. The old hangars appeared to be brand new. He also saw 4 planes, 3 which he recognized, but there was another plane that was painted yellow that he'd never seen before. And also the mechanics were dressed in blue overalls, which was strange, as usually the mechanics in the UK were dressed in brown overalls. Now while Victor was flying, wondering what the heck was going on, the yellow clouds returned, and yet again he was surrounded by the storm. But thankfully, it wasn't as bad as the first time, and he was able to break free and get back home. Now he did tell people what had happened to him and what he saw when he returned, but no one took him seriously, so he didn't talk about it anymore. He just kept it to himself. But what really freaked him out is that in 1939, 4 years later, mechanics began to wear blue overalls. Then the RAF, the Royal Air Force, started to make new yellow monoplanes, exactly like the one he saw. He also heard that the abandoned airfield was now being rebuilt. Now Victor, after seeing what he saw come true, believed that somehow he must have looked into the future. There was just no other explanation. He also believed that the bizarre storm that surrounded him, with those strange-looking yellow clouds, must have had something to do with it. But he never talked about it again until 1966 when he wrote about it. Then in 1975 he wrote a book called A Flight into Reality. Now because Victor at this time was a very well-respected member of the Royal Air Force, as well as being a senior commander, people now did believe him. He was even knighted by the Queen. So it must have took a lot of courage to write about his experience, because his good name was on the line, making this a very interesting case, and at least in my opinion, a very credible eyewitness. Now what stood out to me while researching the story is that in a previous video, I talked about another amazing case when a pilot, Bruce Gernon, was flying through the Bermuda Triangle, and he experienced something very similar. While he was flying, a storm surrounded him, and he noticed that while within the storm there were strange-looking clouds. Then he was in what appeared to be a tunnel, and these clouds were now circling the plane. And when he finally reached the end of this tunnel, he realized that he was now flying over Miami, which was impossible. He shouldn't have reached Miami for at least a couple of hours, and he, Bruce, was just shocked and confused by this. And many years later, he wrote a book about it called The Fog, and still to this day, Bruce is looking for answers. Now this experience is in many ways similar to what Sir Victor experienced. Although Bruce didn't fly into the past, he flew a couple of hours into the future. Another thing that kind of blew my mind about Sir Victor's experience is that he believes that he was looking into the future. And there are many cases in England, especially in Derbyshire County, involving ghost planes flying in the skies above. People claim that they see planes that would just disappear or make no noise at all as it flew overhead. And interestingly enough, in every case that I've read, these planes are always from the 40s or 30s. And here we have a pilot from the 30s who claims he was looking into the future. So this just blows my mind. Here we have people in Derbyshire County claiming that they're seeing ghost planes from the past. And here we have a pilot from the past claiming that he was looking into the future. It also makes me wonder if maybe the British government during World War II was testing some sort of secret time travel weapon, because there is a connection. Victor claims that he was looking into the late 30s or maybe early 40s, and that was during World War II. And in Derbyshire County, it's always planes from that time. Very interesting indeed. Until next time, this is Paranormal Junkie. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.